Hello, welcome back to the garage. I know it's been a little bit since I posted. Always mean to do it a little faster, but you know, life gets in the way. Everybody knows that. But anyway, back out working on the car. Got a little bit of updates for the shop. Got a new air compressor over here. 60-gallon, 3.5 horse motor compressor. Next step up from the 33-gallon Craftsman one that I had before. This one's oiled and runs on 240 volt instead of 120 like the other one did. So better duty cycle on the motor, higher output, get a lot more stuff done with it. But what I'm working on right now is working on cleaning up the panel that I cut off to get the floor in, the support brace for the rear seat. So I haven't got working on inside of the car just yet. Still out here working on the panel I cut off. So it's looking pretty good right now. I've got it soaking in some Eastwood Fast Etch. You can see some of the black is from a little bit of the pitting. I went around the thing with the roll-lock disc with some red Scotch-Brite, and then went over that with some, I think it's 80 grit, yeah, on a DA, just to kind of knock the surface down. I used some of the little, like, 80 grit sanding wheels on my roll-lock discs to knock off the heavier surface rust that was on there. It was mostly around, I'll go ahead and pull this over. You want to keep this stuff wet for a little while on the little heavier areas. But mostly around the cutouts here where the seam sealer was there and kind of held moisture up against the metal there. But it's cleaning up pretty good. Then I'll give this thing a little touch with the weld through primer, and that should be ready to go. And next thing I'm going to do is move in here and knock down some of the welds that I did from the floor to, from the main floor to the trunk floor, that seam overlap. So I'll knock a little bit of that down, get that cleaned and prepped up, and then get in here and clean and prep some of the holes and stuff on these vertical braces. Right here there's a little bit of a dent, so I'll need to hammer and dolly that. Same thing on the driver's side. On the upper part there's a pretty big one. I'm curious how they put that in there, so that might take a little bit of massaging, a little more hammer dolly work to get that cleaned up and straightened up. But yeah, I guess that brace zipped in. I was working on the lower flange for the rocker panels. I got the passenger side done. Ran into a couple of spots where the metal was thinner on the outer corner panel where it tucks over and makes an outer kind of the outer rocker here and tips down. So I'm gonna get in there and cut out and make some patches. So I didn't catch that on camera because I was just wanting to come out here and just kind of get going, just working on it, and use it more for shop therapy than making a video on that one. And then I'll show some of it, making the patches and getting that welded in. But yeah, it's basically the same process I did for the top side, putting some flanges together. So the basic process was already there, same as what I did on the top. Just what I was doing on the bottom side. So I could have milked another video out of it, but whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, shop itself is kind of cluttered. I had my welders sitting there. I put the compressor there for the moment. I'll eventually get it mounted firmly over here, but I've got like the electricals kind of temporarily run in at the moment. Whenever I get the OSB cladding on the walls, then I'll go through and put conduit in a junction box and have it go to the compressor hardwired. But yeah, stuff's just kind of pushed all over itself and cluttered up. See, I was using the box from that 9-inch rear end as a work table at the moment. It's fairly convenient. It's making a nice little work table there. But I pulled that back over into this shop from my garage on the house. and a few other things. And the leaf springs for the car. I got some new leaf springs. Brought my painting rack over here, which still has the door for my truck on it at the moment. So, need to get that thing hung on the other truck and generator. But I needed to make some room for my little John boat. I've had that thing outside most of last year. And last year I learned my lesson. I had wasps that moved into the boat. So I took the boat out for the first time. I'm out on the river having a grand old time for about 20 minutes, and then a handful of wasps flew out from under the seat, started buzzing all around me. I did bring a can of wasp spray with me for that when I was out there that time, just in case. And yeah, they were in there. So this year I moved all the stuff out of the way in the other garage and managed to put my little boat in there, and I closed the door so I won't have them move in this time. And also pressure washed and blew all the leaves and junk out of it. My own neglect sitting out there. And I got this car and started working on that and kind of neglected my boat for a little bit. So I got that cleaned up and back out over here for this thing. But anyway, I'm probably just going to finish up that centerpiece tonight and call it a night because I got started pretty late. But I'll get out here tomorrow and we'll get working on cleaning up those vertical pieces. The hammer work on it, getting this stuff beat out, and surface prep, and grinding down those welds, dressing it, and getting everything ready to weld that cross piece back together, and then that will be all done and ready to go. So, pretty excited about that. But yeah, next time I'll see you, it'll be tomorrow, and we'll be working on the vertical pieces. My, how time flies, huh? Been a few seconds for you guys, and a full day for me. So, little update. I just literally did this a couple minutes ago. Wiped the panel down with some paint thinner after that Eastwood Fast Edge dried. You know, it left a zinc coating like it's supposed to on there, but used some paint thinner and rag and kind of wiped the surface off just to pull some of that off. Then sprayed it down with some of this cold galvanizing spray. I don't actually have a favorite brand of this one. It's just what I grabbed off of Amazon, I think. But yeah, touch that up. So on this side of the panel, it basically just needs to be where the spot weld holes that I drilled out are. This half, you know, basically that stamped line and up, will be touching the floor on the other side. So I'll show you how it goes together. But basically, this side of the panel needs to be galvanizing spray over here, and then the other side of the panel is more focused on the pockets where they're touching these vertical pieces. So those pockets over here touch on the back side of this piece, and it comes on the front side of the floor. So yeah, I'm going to get in here, start off with some hammer and dolly work to straighten this one out, and the other one, like I showed a moment ago, the kind of some of the dents here. So I'll get that straightened out with the hammer, and then I'll probably need to come in with my grinder and touch a little bit of the welds, because those pockets are meant, or the notches on that cross brace are meant to wrap kind of around this thicker stamped flange. You know, this is just the support brace for the cab mount for that nut. Kind of spread the load here across the floor. And I put some extra welds around it just because, you know, getting carried away, whatever. Put them on there. So I'll grind it on the top side to kind of make some clearance for that. I got a little bit to do there. And then I'll come in and sand off those pieces of weld between the two floors, and clean up the surface of these vertical pieces where they overlap, so I don't have any of this paint or any surface rust or anything left. Get it all clean. Then come in from the back side where the two panels are going to overlap, spray that down with some cold galvanizing spray. Then everything should be ready to get welded up. But I got a feeling the prep work's going to take me through the rest of the night, and I'll be out tomorrow to finish up the welding, unless I get in a groove. So we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, I'll get this camera set up for a time lapse, and we'll start hammering. it's stop and explain story time. So, as you saw, I was using the drill bit there near the end, my little Ryobi drill here, and putting some holes in this driver's side lower piece. And that is because even though there are dimples, you can kind of see from the paint that's left where the pressure was applied for spot welds before. There actually weren't welds there. So when I pulled this panel off before, this was floppy down here. Like, it was completely not attached to this panel. And I could tell, like, the pressure was working, but the electricity wasn't flowing through their spot welder when they were putting the car together. So it's kind of interesting. So I don't think those panels were ever actually correctly bonded. I think they were just squeezed, which has the dimples, but they were never attached at that point. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, there's one right there, but I didn't drill these out. Like, when I was using the spot weld cutter, I worked on the passenger side first. If I'd have started over here, I would have seen those dimples, and I would have center punched them, drilled them out, and cut them with the spot welder. But it turns out I didn't need to, because when I started on the passenger side, got this piece cut off and this piece cut off, it just fell out. It wasn't attached on this side. So I needed to drill the holes so that I can weld it together. And there's a neat feature. You have the little holes here that actually line up with the hole in the pocket on that side. And I left that feature on the other side. The bottom of that kind of snowman hole, this oblong one, is actually the alignment part for this one. So to get this thing all aligned like I need to, all I need to do is just clamp it so those holes are lined up with each other, and then however it pushes against the floor is where it's going to sit when I weld it on from this piece to the floor piece. So yeah, it's coming along okay. I think I got a couple of little clamps over there. I'll grab some clamps and get this thing kind of set in place. Then I can grind off the EDP coating off the floor, so I'm not having to weld through that. I'll just knock it off in the places where all these little spot or rosette welds are going to be to put it back together. And then, yeah, that'll be the floor cleaned up. So let's move along pretty quick. For this one, I think what I'm going to do is set it up real time, but I'll put a backing track on here because you don't need to hear a bunch of grinding noise. It's annoying. So I'll put an audio track on the back side. So I'm going to end this clip, start the next clip, but it's going to be at regular speed so you can watch me clean this thing up real time. It'll be a little longer, but might be a little more informative than the speedy version that I usually use. So anyway, let's get to it. well, that about wraps it up for tonight. I've got the weld through primer thrown down on all the spots that I ground there out of the that EDP primer that this panel, the floor panel, comes with it, and you know, ground back off some of the overspray, because I'm going to weld as little of that stuff as possible, but you know, have it on the internal parts of the metal where it's sandwiched together. But it's getting a little late here Friday night, so I think all I got left to do now is just clamp that panel back in place and start running welds. So I'll sleep in a little bit tomorrow, have some breakfast, come out here, fire up the welder, and we'll get to that. So next time you see me, I will be welding. And there you have it. The panel's all welded in. Got all the little rosettes done. All that's left now is just to knock it down with the sanding wheel on the angle grinder, and then I'm going to start with 80 because that's as coarse as I've got, but do 80 and then 120 grit, and then I'll follow that up with the DA to smooth everything off, and yeah, it should look pretty good. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.